My name is Donna Wilson, 32 years old, and until recently, I thought I knew what success looked like. After 5 dedicated years at Skyline Marketing climbing the ladder one rung at a time, my boss Walter called me into his office with news that made my heart soar. Senior Marketing Director, my dream position. But as his congratulatory smile spread across his face, something cold settled in my stomach. Later that night, passing by his office, I heard him on the phone. "Don't worry, it's all part of the plan. This promotion isn't what she thinks." Before I tell you how my dream promotion turned into a nightmare, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. And if you want to see more stories about workplace betrayals, hit that like and subscribe button. I still remember my first day at Skyline Marketing 5 years ago. The office occupied the 12th floor of a sleek downtown building, all glass and modern furniture, with a view of the city skyline that gave the company its name. Back then, I was fresh out of my MBA program, eager to prove myself in the competitive world of digital marketing. Skyline wasn't the biggest agency in the city, but it had a reputation for creativity and a tight-knit culture that made it feel like family. At least that was before Walter Peterson arrived. For the first 4 years, I worked under Richard Barrett, the company founder. Richard was the kind of boss everyone dreams of having. He challenged me, supported me, and celebrated my wins as if they were his own. Under his guidance, I rose from junior marketing associate to marketing specialist, then to team lead. Each promotion came with new responsibilities that stretched my abilities, but Richard never doubted I could handle them. "You have a natural talent for understanding what clients really need, not just what they say they want," he told me once after I landed the Liberty Financial account, which quickly became our biggest client. That account alone increased our revenue by 28%. The office culture then was collaborative and supportive. We worked hard, but we celebrated harder. Monthly happy hours, quarterly retreats, and an open-door policy that made everyone feel valued. My closest friend at work, Judy Reynolds, joined around the same time I did. She worked in account management, and we quickly bonded over late nights preparing pitch decks and our shared addiction to caramel macchiatos. Kenneth Ford from IT was another ally, quiet and meticulous, but always willing to help when technology inevitably failed at the worst possible moment. And Margaret Johnson in HR was the unofficial office mom, solving problems before they escalated and making sure everyone felt heard. Things changed 8 months ago when Richard announced he was stepping back from day-to-day operations to focus on expanding the business internationally. He introduced Walter Peterson as our new Chief Operating Officer, and from that first meeting, something felt off. Walter was tall, impeccably dressed with salt and pepper hair and a smile that never quite reached his eyes. He came from a larger agency in New York and made it clear he was here to professionalize our operation and take us to the next level. Those phrases should have been my first warning. Within weeks, the office atmosphere shifted. Walter implemented rigid reporting structures, eliminated flexible work arrangements, and instituted performance metrics that seemed designed to pit colleagues against each other. The monthly happy hours disappeared, replaced by formal quarterly reviews where Walter would publicly praise top performers and subtly shame those who didn't meet his ever-changing expectations. For reasons I couldn't understand at the time, Walter seemed particularly focused on me. At first, I thought it was positive attention. He would ask for my input in meetings only to present my ideas as his own later to Richard or clients. He would request special reports or analyses, often with impossible deadlines, then express mild disappointment when they weren't quite what he was looking for. The Liberty Financial account became a particular point of contention. I had built a strong relationship with their marketing director, Carol Thompson, who trusted my understanding of their brand and customers. Walter began inserting himself into client meetings, contradicting strategies we had already agreed upon, and creating confusion. After each meeting, I would spend hours on damage control calls with Carol, reassuring her that we were still on the same page. Despite the challenges, I remained dedicated to my job. Marketing wasn't just my career, it was my passion. I loved the blend of creativity and analytics, The thrill of seeing a campaign succeed, the relationships built with clients who became friends. Even as Walter made my daily work life increasingly difficult, I refused to let it affect the quality of my work. Judy noticed the change in my demeanor. "He's targeting you because you're good at your job," she said during one of our coffee breaks. "Men like Walter feel threatened by competent women." I dismissed her concern. "He's just pushing me to be better," I replied, though I wasn't entirely convinced. Kenneth was more direct. "The guy's bad news," he told me after fixing my computer when it mysteriously crashed right before a major presentation. "He's got the execs wrapped around his finger, but the way he treats the rest of us tells you everything you need to know about his character." Margaret was more diplomatic, but equally concerned. "Just document everything," she advised quietly after I vented about Walter taking credit for my quarterly marketing plan. "Every email, every conversation. Trust me on this." Looking back, I should have paid more attention to these warnings. I should have noticed how Walter systematically isolated me from my allies, how he subtly undermined my authority with my team, how he created problems that I would then have to solve under pressure. But I was raised to believe that hard work always prevails, that merit would be recognized and rewarded. So when Walter called me into his office that Monday morning, I had no idea I was walking into a trap disguised as an opportunity. No idea that his congratulatory smile masked a plan already in motion to destroy everything I had worked for. "Donna, please close the door and have a seat," Walter said, gesturing to the chair across from his expansive desk. It was a Monday morning, and I'd arrived early as usual to prepare for our weekly team meeting. His unexpected summons sent a flutter of anxiety through my chest. His office was meticulously organized, not a paper out of place. The shelves displayed business books and industry awards, carefully arranged to impress visitors. A large window behind him offered a stunning view of the city, a constant reminder of the power position he occupied. "I've been reviewing the organizational structure," Walter began, leaning forward slightly, "and I've been incredibly impressed with your work on the Liberty financial account." This was unexpected. Walter rarely gave compliments, especially to me. "Thank you," I replied cautiously. "In fact," he continued, "I've discussed this with Richard, and we've decided it's time for a change." He paused, letting the tension build. "We'd like to promote you to Senior Marketing Director effective immediately." The words hung in the air between us. Senior Marketing Director. It was 2 levels above my current position, a role I'd been working toward for years, but expected would take at least another year or two to achieve. Wow. Thank you," I stammered, genuinely surprised. "That's unexpected." Walter smiled, showing too many teeth. "You've earned it. Your strategic thinking on the Liberty campaign demonstrated exactly the kind of leadership we need." My mind raced. This was the recognition I'd been working for, the validation of my sleepless nights and sacrificed weekends. Yet something felt wrong. Walter had been undermining me for months, and now this sudden promotion. Of course, the role comes with significant new responsibilities. Walter continued, sliding a folder across the desk. "You'll be leading the entire Liberty Financial rebranding initiative. Their CEO wants a complete overhaul before the end of the quarter." I opened the folder to find a project brief that made my stomach drop. The timeline was impossible. A complete rebranding strategy, new website, digital campaign, and print materials in just 6 weeks for their entire corporate structure. "This timeline seems very aggressive," I said, trying to keep my voice even. Walter's smile didn't waver. "Liberty's board has accelerated their plans. It's a challenge, certainly, but I wouldn't be offering you this position if I didn't think you could handle it." His tone suggested that any hesitation on my part would confirm I wasn't ready for the promotion. "I see," I replied, scanning the brief further. The budget seemed inadequate for the scope, and there was no mention of additional team members to help with the increased workload. "You'll be reporting directly to me now," Walter added. "We'll have daily check-ins to ensure everything stays on track. Your new office is being prepared as we speak. Oh, and we'll announce your promotion at this morning's meeting." Before I could ask any more questions, Walter stood up, signaling the end of our conversation. Congratulations, Donna. This is a big step up. I expect great things from you. 3 hours later, Walter made the announcement to the entire company. Standing at the front of the conference room, he put his hand on my shoulder in a gesture that felt more possessive than supportive. I'm delighted to announce that Donna Wilson has been promoted to Senior Marketing Director, he proclaimed. Her first challenge will be leading the Liberty Financial Rebranding Initiative, our most important account. The reactions from my colleagues were mixed. Some offered genuine congratulations, others forced smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Judy looked concerned, her brow furrowed as she mouthed, "Let's talk later," across the table. After the meeting, my team members approached with questions about how the restructuring would affect them. I had no answers, realizing Walter had shared no details about my new authority or team structure. That evening, Judy insisted on taking me out for a celebratory dinner, though her enthusiasm seemed forced. "Aren't you happy for me?" I asked as we settled into a booth at our favorite restaurant. Judy sighed, twirling her wine glass. "Of course I am. You deserve recognition. It's just what? Don't you think it's strange Walter has been making your life difficult for months and suddenly he's your biggest champion?" I felt a flicker of the same doubt I'd experienced in Walter's office. Maybe he finally recognized my value to the company. Judy gave me a skeptical look. Or maybe there's something else going on. That timeline for Liberty is ridiculous, Donna. No one could deliver a full rebrand in 6 weeks. So you think he's setting me up to fail? The words hung between us, giving voice to the fear that had been forming in the back of my mind. "I think Walter Peterson doesn't do anything unless it benefits Walter Peterson," Judy replied carefully. "Just promise me you'll be careful and keep your eyes open." I nodded, but part of me still wanted to believe this was the recognition I deserved. We changed the subject, talking about Judy's upcoming vacation and her latest dating disaster, but the conversation lacked our usual ease. That night, as I was leaving the office much later than usual, I passed by Walter's office. The door was ajar, and I could hear him on the phone. "Yes, it's in motion," he was saying, his voice low. "The board will see the results soon enough. Trust me, this promotion is exactly what we needed to make it happen." I froze, my hand still on my office door. What was in motion? And why did his tone make it sound like my promotion was part of some larger scheme? I slipped away quietly before he could notice me, but sleep eluded me that night. Between excitement about the promotion and nagging worry about Walter's intentions, I tossed and turned until dawn. By the time my alarm rang, I had convinced myself that I was overthinking things. This was my chance to prove myself at a higher level, and I was determined to succeed despite Walter's impossible timeline and my growing sense of unease. Little did I know that the promotion wasn't a reward for my hard work. It was the first step in a carefully orchestrated plan to destroy my career. My first day as Senior Marketing Director began with a move to my new office. Unlike the open collaborative space I'd occupied before, this one was tucked away in a far corner of the building, isolated from my team and other departments. The windows faced an adjacent building's brick wall, eliminating any natural light. The previous occupant had clearly left in a hurry. Dust outlined where pictures had once hung, and the desk drawers contained odd supplies and forgotten business cards. "Not exactly the corner office with a view, is it?" Judy remarked when she stopped by mid-morning carrying 2 coffee cups. "It's fine," I said, trying to sound positive as I unpacked my things. "At least I have a door now." The computer on my desk was an older model than my previous one, and it took nearly 20 minutes to boot up. When it finally did, I discovered that many of the software programs I needed for the Liberty campaign weren't installed, and my request to IT for updates was met with a response that all software installations needed approval from Walter first. By noon, I had planned to gather my team to discuss the Liberty rebrand, but when I tried to schedule a conference room, I found my calendar access restricted. A call to administrative support revealed that Walter had implemented a new policy requiring director-level approval for meeting room bookings. "But I am a director now," I pointed out. Yes, but your permissions haven't been updated in the system yet, the administrative assistant explained apologetically. Walter needs to submit the authorization form. When I finally managed to gather my team in a small break room, their confusion matched my own. None of them had received any communication about the new reporting structure or their roles in the Liberty Project. We've been told to continue with our current assignments until further notice, explained Ryan, one of my most reliable designers. No one mentioned shifting to Liberty work. As I returned to my office to email Walter about these issues, I noticed a man I didn't recognize sitting at a desk near my old workspace. He was tall and lean with carefully styled dark hair and an expensive-looking suit. He appeared to be reviewing materials that looked suspiciously like the Liberty financial files. My suspicion was confirmed when Walter appeared leading the stranger directly to my isolated office. "Donna, I'd like you to meet James Mitchell," Walter announced without knocking. "James is a consultant I've brought in to help with the Liberty transition. He's got extensive experience in financial marketing." James extended his hand with a practiced smile. "Pleasure to meet you, Donna. Walter has told me so much about your work." Something about his tone suggested that whatever Walter had told him wasn't entirely complimentary. "I wasn't aware we were bringing in outside help," I said, shaking his hand briefly. Walter waved dismissively. "Just an extra resource to ensure we meet the timeline. James will shadow you for a while to get up to speed. He reports to me, but feel free to utilize his expertise." Before I could object, Walter was gone, leaving James standing in my doorway with that same practiced smile. "Where would you like me to set up?" he asked. Having no choice, I cleared a small side table for him, acutely aware that every move I made would now be observed and reported back to Walter. That afternoon, I tried accessing the Liberty financial files I'd been working on before the promotion, only to discover my permissions had been revoked. "That's strange," I muttered, trying another route to access the campaign history. "What's the problem?" James asked instantly at my shoulder. "I can't access the Liberty files. I need the campaign history to understand what's already been established before planning the rebrand." James frowned slightly. "I'm sure it's just a system glitch with your new role. I can ask Walter about it." "No, I'll handle it," I said quickly, not wanting to appear incapable on my first day. A call to Kenneth in IT confirmed my suspicions that something was wrong. "Your permissions were specifically restricted this morning." Kenneth told me, his voice lowered. "I got a direct email from Walter saying you should only have access to new project files, not historical data. That makes no sense. How am I supposed to create a cohesive rebranding strategy without understanding what's been done before?" Kenneth was silent for a moment. "Look, I shouldn't be telling you this, but there have been some weird directives about your accounts. Your email is being monitored, and there's a new backup protocol just for your files." A chill ran down my spine. "What kind of protocol?" "All your work is being duplicated to a separate server that only Walter and apparently this new guy James have access to." I thanked Kenneth and hung up, aware of James watching me intently from his corner. By late afternoon, Carol from Liberty Financial called, concern evident in her voice. "Donna, I just got some strange files from your office," she said. "The preliminary concepts for the rebrand look nothing like what we discussed last month. They've completely abandoned the direction we agreed on." My stomach dropped. "I haven't sent any files, Carol. I just got promoted to lead the rebrand yesterday." There was a pause. "Well, someone from Skyline sent them. The email said they were approved by you." After reassuring Carol that I would sort out the confusion, I immediately checked my sent email folder. There was indeed an email to Carol, apparently from me, with attached files I had never seen before. The designs were amateurish and completely off-brand for Liberty's conservative image. When I confronted Walter about this, he dismissed my concerns with a wave of his hand. "Just an adjustment period, Donna. James was probably trying to be helpful by sending some initial concepts. I'll speak to him about proper channels." "But the email came from my account," I insisted. Walter's expression hardened slightly. "Are you suggesting someone is impersonating you? That's a serious accusation." I backtracked, not wanting to create conflict on my first day in the new role. No, of course not. It must be a misunderstanding. That night, as I finally headed home well after 8, my head pounding from stress and confusion, I made my first critical mistake. In the Liberty Financial presentation I had hastily prepared for the next morning, I failed to notice that the financial projections had been altered from the original data. The changes were subtle but significant, projecting unrealistic growth that Liberty would immediately recognize as implausible. I only discovered the error the next morning, 15 minutes before the presentation, when it was too late to correct it. The meeting was a disaster. Carol and her team were visibly disappointed, exchanging glances as I stumbled through explanations for data I knew was wrong but couldn't correct on the fly. Walter, who sat silently through most of the meeting, stepped in at the end with a smooth apology. "Clearly there are some transition issues with Donna's new role," he told Carol with just the right amount of regret in his voice. "I'll personally ensure the correct data is provided by the end of the day." As we left the Liberty offices, Walter's consoling pat on my shoulder felt like a condemnation. "First presentations in a new role are always tough," he said loud enough for others to hear. Then, lowering his voice as we reached the elevator, he added, "But mistakes with financial data are inexcusable, Donna. Let's not make this a pattern." By the end of that first week, I was exhausted, demoralized, and increasingly suspicious. My isolation from the team, the technical difficulties, the missing files, and James's constant presence all pointed to a deliberate effort to undermine my work. But the question remained, why would Walter promote me only to set me up for failure? The answer would prove far more calculated and malicious than I could have imagined. As my second week in the new role began, the strange incidents multiplied. While reviewing the budget proposal for Liberty Financial's social media campaign, I noticed the numbers didn't match my original calculations. The proposed spend was nearly double what Liberty had approved, making the projected ROI look disastrously low. "This isn't right," I muttered, pulling up my original spreadsheet for comparison. The differences were undeniable. Someone had altered the data. From his corner desk, James glanced up. "Problem. These numbers have been changed," I said, keeping my tone neutral despite my growing anger. "My original calculations show a much more favorable return on investment." James approached, looking over my shoulder with an expression of concern that didn't quite reach his eyes. "That's concerning. Should I mention it to Walter?" "No, I'll handle it," I replied quickly, noticing how James seemed to document everything in a small notebook he carried. Each time I encountered an issue, made a decision, or expressed frustration, his pen would move across the page. Later that day, Walter called me into his office for what he described as a check-in on the Liberty account. As I entered, he was finishing a phone call. Yes, he was saying, his back to the door. "She'll be gone within a month and we can proceed as planned." Seeing me, he quickly ended the call. Donna, come in. How's progress on the rebrand?" My heart pounded as I took a seat, trying to process what I'd just overheard. Was he talking about me? Gone within a month. "We've hit some unexpected challenges." I began carefully. The budget numbers in the proposal were altered from my original calculations, which would make the campaign appear financially irresponsible. Walter's expression remained impassive. "Are you sure you didn't make an error in your initial calculations? The pressure of a new role can affect even the most competent people." "I'm certain," I insisted, pulling out both versions of the spreadsheet. "Here are my original numbers, and here's what appeared in the final proposal. Someone changed them." Walter glanced at the papers dismissively. "Spreadsheets can be confusing. Perhaps you're misremembering your original figures." "I'm not misremembering anything," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. "And it's not just the numbers. Files are missing, my permissions have been restricted, and someone sent unapproved designs to Liberty from my email account." Walter leaned back, his expression shifting to one of concern that felt as rehearsed as James's smile. "Donna, I understand the transition has been stressful, but these accusations are concerning. Perhaps the promotion was premature if you're finding the responsibilities overwhelming." His implication was clear. complain too much, and the promotion would disappear. I left his office feeling gaslighted and increasingly paranoid. That evening, I met Judy at a cafe several blocks from the office, well away from any potential eavesdroppers. "Something's definitely wrong," I told her, keeping my voice low despite the ambient noise of the busy cafe. "I think Walter is deliberately sabotaging me." Judy nodded, unsurprised. "I've been doing some digging. Walter did something similar at his last company, Apex Marketing. He was brought in as COO, and within 6 months, 3 senior women had either quit or been fired for performance issues." "How do you know this?" "My roommate from college works at Apex. When I mentioned Walter had joined Skyline, she warned me about him. Apparently, he has a pattern of targeting successful women who might threaten his position." This revelation sent a chill through me. "So the promotion could be a setup," Judy finished. "Promote you to a position with impossible demands, isolate you from your support network, then document your failures until he has enough to justify firing you." After our meeting, I spent hours researching Walter online. Most of his professional profiles showed the expected career highlights and achievements, but digging deeper revealed a pattern. At each of his previous 3 companies, his arrival had been followed by restructuring that pushed out established leaders, particularly women, replacing them with his own network of colleagues. The next morning, I arrived at the office early, determined to find more concrete evidence. Using Kenneth's IT access, we looked at Walter's sent emails folder when he was in an off-site meeting. "This might get me fired," Kenneth muttered as his fingers flew across the keyboard. "I'll say I forced you. I promised keeping watch at the door." Within minutes, Kenneth had found a folder labeled Project Replacement that contained emails between Walter and James dating back 3 months long before my promotion. "Look at this," Kenneth said, pointing to an email dated 6 weeks earlier. "James was hired specifically to replace you on the Liberty account. Your promotion was just a way to move you out of the position while making it look like your fault when you failed." The email laid out Walter's strategy clearly. "Once we move Donna to the director position, we'll implement the transition plan. The timeline and expectations are designed to be impossible to meet. When she inevitably fails, you'll step in as the solution to the problem she created. Richard will have no choice but to approve the change given the importance of the Liberty account." My hands shook as I read the words. It wasn't paranoia. Walter had been planning my professional demise for months. Further emails revealed more details of the plan. Walter had directed IT to restrict my access to critical files, instructed administrative staff to isolate me from my team, and even told other directors to make their teams unavailable for the Liberty Project. "He's created a situation where you can't possibly succeed," Kenneth said, his face grim. "And he's documenting every stumble as evidence against you." That afternoon, I had my first meeting with Liberty Financial since the disastrous presentation. Walter had insisted that James attend as an observer, but his real purpose became clear when he began answering questions directed at me and presenting alternative concepts that contradicted our established strategy. Carol, Liberty's marketing director, looked increasingly confused as the meeting progressed. "I thought we had agreed on a conservative approach that emphasized security and legacy," she said, after James presented a concept featuring bright colors and trendy language. "The research indicates a need to attract younger clients," James replied smoothly, as if he had been leading the account for years. "Donna's approach was traditional, but we believe a bolder direction will yield better results." "That wasn't the research conclusion at all," I interjected, my frustration mounting. "Our data showed that Liberty's core clients value stability over trendiness." Walter cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should take this discussion offline." "Carol, I apologize for the confusion. It seems our team isn't entirely aligned yet." After the meeting, I overheard Walter telling Carol, "We're working through some transition challenges. James has extensive experience in financial marketing that I believe will ultimately serve Liberty better." It was becoming clear that Walter wasn't just setting me up to fail. He was actively positioning James as my replacement, undermining my authority and relationships before I had even had a chance to prove myself in the new role. Back at the office, I found an email from Margaret in HR, requesting a meeting to discuss performance concerns. The attached document listed incidents from the past 2 weeks, including the altered presentation data and client confusion, all framed as my failures in the new role. The walls were closing in faster than I had anticipated. Walter wasn't planning to give me a month to fail. He was accelerating the timeline, creating a paper trail that would justify my removal before I had a chance to counter his strategy. In the bathroom that afternoon, the stress finally overwhelmed me. Locked in a stall, I experienced my first panic attack, heart racing, unable to catch my breath, hands trembling uncontrollably. I stayed there for nearly 20 minutes trying to regain my composure and figure out my next move. When I finally emerged, Judy was waiting, concern etched on her face. "Kenneth told me what you found," she said quietly, checking to ensure we were alone. "And I've got something else. I convinced a security friend to pull the after-hours access logs. Someone used your keycard to enter the building at 2 a.m. last night, but the lobby camera shows it was James, not you. They're planting evidence." I realize the implications hitting me fully. "They're not just setting me up to fail, they're actively sabotaging my work." "So what are you going to do?" Judy asked. "Resign before they fire you?" I thought about it for a long moment, considering the easiest path. I could walk away now, find another job, avoid the coming confrontation. But something inside me rebelled at the injustice. "No," I said finally, my resolve hardening. "I'm going to fight back. Walter thinks he's so clever, but he's left a trail. We just need to gather the evidence and expose what he's doing." Judy smiled for the first time that day. "That's the Donna I know. So what's the plan?" As we walked back to my office, a strategy began to form. Walter had underestimated me, assuming I would either fail spectacularly or quit under pressure. He didn't realize that in promoting me to destroy my career, he had given me the very position I needed to expose his tactics and turn the tables on his scheme. The game was just beginning, and this time, I would be the one setting the rules. The next morning, I arrived at the office with a renewed sense of purpose and a clear plan. If Walter wanted to play dirty, he was about to learn that I could fight back just as effectively. My first step was to protect myself by creating irrefutable evidence of the sabotage. I purchased a small digital voice recorder that looked like a thumb drive and began documenting every interaction with Walter and James. In New York, recording conversations without consent is legal as long as one party, me, is aware of the recording. "Just checking in on the Liberty campaign," Walter said, appearing at my office door around 10. "James mentioned you're still pushing for the conservative approach despite our agreement to go bolder." I kept my voice neutral, aware of the recorder in my pocket. "I don't recall any agreement to change our strategy. The client explicitly stated they want to emphasize security and legacy." Walter's smile tightened. "Perhaps you misunderstood. As senior marketing director, you need to be open to innovative approaches, not stuck in outdated thinking." "I'm open to innovation that serves the client's goals," I replied. "But changing direction without client approval risks the entire account. Just remember who made the final decisions here," Walter said, his tone carrying a clear threat. "James has my full confidence on this project." After he left, I immediately transcribed the conversation, noting the date, time, and context. This would be the first piece in my growing collection of evidence. Next, I needed to create a secure backup of all my work that couldn't be accessed or altered by Walter or James. I purchased an external hard drive and began saving copies of every file, email, and document related to Liberty Financial and my promotion. Kenneth proved invaluable in this effort, helping me recover original versions of the files that had been tampered with. "I've set up a hidden folder on the server that only you can access," he explained after hours when the office was nearly empty. "And I've written a script that will automatically copy any changes made to your files so we can track exactly what they're altering and when." With Judy's help, I began reaching out to former employees from Walter's previous companies. We created a fake LinkedIn profile and contacted people who had left soon after Walter's arrival. The responses were illuminating and disturbing. Walter pushed me out 6 months after he joined, wrote a former marketing director from Apex. First came the promotion with impossible expectations, then the isolation from my team, and finally the accusations of incompetence. I wish I had fought back instead of leaving. Another message read, "He did the same to me at Techmark. Promoted me, set impossible deadlines, then brought in his buddy to help when I struggled. Classic divide and conquer strategy. He targets women who threaten his authority." These testimonies confirmed what we suspected. Walter had a systematic approach to eliminating threats to his position, particularly successful women who might outshine him. Meanwhile, I discovered James's contract in a folder Walter had carelessly left visible during a meeting. The document clearly stated that James was hired as a transition consultant with the expectation of assuming the role of account director for Liberty Financial within 3 months. "He had planned your replacement before even promoting you," Judy said, examining the contract dates. "This is corporate sabotage, plain and simple." Armed with this knowledge, I took a calculated risk and reached out directly to Carol at Liberty Financial, requesting a private meeting off-site. "I've been concerned about the mixed messages we've been receiving," Carol admitted when we met at a quiet cafe. "One day we're going with the conservative approach we agreed on, the next day, this James person is pushing an entirely different concept." "Carol, I need to be candid with you," I said, choosing my words carefully. "There are internal issues at Skyline that are affecting your account. I believe in the strategy we developed together and I'm committed to delivering it, but there are forces working against that happening." Carol's eyes narrowed. "Are you saying someone at Skyline is deliberately undermining the campaign?" "I'm gathering evidence of that now," I confirmed. "All I ask is that you don't make any decisions about the account until I've had a chance to resolve this situation." Carol considered this for a moment. "I've always valued your work, Donna. You've consistently delivered results for us. If something strange is happening, I want to know about it before we make any changes." This conversation gave me crucial breathing room. As long as Liberty didn't pull their account, I had time to build my case against Walter. Back at the office, I began working nights to recreate the Liberty campaign correctly hidden from Walter and James's interference. I used Kenneth's secure server space to develop the rebranding materials according to the original strategy Carol and I had agreed upon. Margaret from HR proved to be another unexpected ally. After I shared some of my evidence with her, she revealed that she had been documenting Walter's pattern of behavior since his arrival. His performance reviews are consistently lower for female employees, she told me, showing me a spreadsheet of anonymized data. And the metrics he uses keep changing to justify his assessments. I've been concerned, but without concrete evidence of deliberate discrimination, my hands were tied. By the end of the week, I had accumulated enough evidence to approach Richard Barrett, the company founder. This was the riskiest part of my plan. Richard had brought Walter in, and might be reluctant to admit he had made a mistake in trusting him. I requested a confidential meeting at Richard's home on Saturday morning, away from the office and Walter's surveillance. "This better be important, Donna," Richard said as he welcomed me into his study. "I don't usually do business on weekends." "It's about Walter Peterson and the Liberty account." I began placing my folder of evidence on his desk. "And yes, it's very important." For the next hour, I methodically presented what I had discovered: the altered files, the restricted access, the after-hours tampering, James's prearranged contract, the testimonies from Walter's previous victims, and the recordings of his own incriminating statements. Richard's expression grew increasingly grave as he reviewed the material. "This is disturbing to say the least," he said finally. "But why would Walter deliberately sabotage our biggest account? It doesn't make sense." "Control," I explained. "Walter systematically removes people he sees as threats, or who won't align with his vision. I suspect his long-term plan is to replace key leadership with his own network, eventually positioning himself to take over more of the company." Richard was silent for a long moment, studying the evidence again. "If what you're showing me is accurate, and it certainly appears to be, then we have a serious problem. But we need to handle this carefully. Walter has built relationships with the board and other executives. Together, we devised a plan to trap Walter into revealing his true intentions. Liberty Financial was scheduled to review the final rebranding proposal in 1 week. This would be our opportunity to expose Walter's scheme in front of the client and company leadership. You continue developing the correct campaign according to the original strategy, Richard instructed. I'll ensure the key decision-makers are present at the presentation. If Walter and James try to undermine you as you expect, we'll be ready. As I left Richard's house, I felt both vindicated and anxious. The next week would determine not just my future at Skyline, but potentially the company's direction as well. Walter had promoted me with the intention of destroying my career, but his plan was about to backfire spectacularly. The day of the Liberty Financial presentation arrived with a tension that hung in the air like an approaching storm. I had barely slept the night before reviewing my evidence and rehearsing my presentation until every word was committed to memory. This wasn't just about saving my career anymore, it was about exposing a pattern of manipulation and sabotage that had hurt multiple women before me. The conference room was arranged with military precision. Richard had ensured that all key players were present: Carol and her team from Liberty Financial Skyline's board members, the executive leadership team, and of course Walter and James. Judy sat near the back, giving me a subtle thumbs up as I entered. Kenneth had helped me prepare the technical aspects, ensuring that both Walter's tampered files and my correct version were accessible. Walter appeared supremely confident, greeting the Liberty team with practiced charm. He caught my eye briefly, his expression a mixture of condescension and subtle threat. He clearly expected today to be the final nail in my professional coffin. "Before we begin," Richard announced, taking control of the room in a way I hadn't seen since Walter's arrival, "I want to emphasize the importance of this presentation. Liberty Financial has been a valued partner for years, and their rebranding initiative represents a significant opportunity for both our companies." Walter nodded in agreement, unaware of what was coming. "Absolutely, Richard. That's why we've brought our best resources to this project." He gestured toward James, noticeably excluding me from his statement. Richard continued, "Donna Wilson, as our senior marketing director, will lead today's presentation. I ask that everyone hold questions until the end." Walter's smile faltered slightly at Richard's emphasis on my role, but he recovered quickly. "Of course, though, James has prepared some alternative concepts we might want to consider." "We'll review all materials presented," Richard replied firmly. Taking a deep breath, I stepped to the front of the room. "Thank you all for being here today. As you know, Liberty Financial has entrusted us with redefining their brand for the modern financial landscape while honoring their legacy of security and trust." I began my presentation with the strategy Carol and I had originally agreed upon, emphasizing the research that supported our conservative yet forward-looking approach. The Liberty team nodded in recognition, clearly seeing the continuity from our previous discussions. Then came the moment of truth. Now I'd like to show you the initial concepts that were developed under this strategy. I clicked to the next slide, revealing the amateurish designs that had been sent to Liberty from my email account without my knowledge. These were sent to Liberty 2 weeks ago, supposedly with my approval. Carol frowned. "Yes, those are the designs we received. They seemed completely disconnected from our previous discussions." "I agree," I said calmly, "because I never created or approved them." I clicked to the next slide, showing the email metadata that proved the message had been sent when I was in a client meeting across town. These designs were sent from my account while I was physically absent from the office, as confirmed by our building's security logs. Walter shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "There must be some misunderstanding," I continued before he could derail my presentation. Subsequently, the financial projections provided to Liberty were altered to show an unfavorable return on investment. I displayed side-by-side comparisons of the original calculations and the tampered versions. The altered numbers made our proposed strategy appear financially irresponsible. The room had grown completely silent, all eyes moving between me and Walter, who was now sitting rigidly in his chair. "What are you suggesting, Donna?" one of the board members asked. "I'm not suggesting anything yet," I replied. I'm simply presenting facts. Now I'd like to show you the actual rebranding concepts I've developed based on our agreed strategy. I revealed the materials I had created during my late nights working in secret, a sophisticated evolution of Liberty's brand that maintained their core values while modernizing their visual identity. The designs were clean, professional, and perfectly aligned with the research insights. Carol's expression brightened immediately. This is exactly what we discussed. This captures our essence while moving us forward. The difference is stark, I noted, displaying the two versions side by side. And it raises an important question: why would anyone deliberately sabotage work for our largest client? Walter stood abruptly. This is absurd. You're creating conspiracy theories to cover for your own inadequacies in the new role. If you weren't ready for the promotion, I interrupted, my voice steady despite my racing heart, that was given to me specifically to set me up for failure. The conference room doors opened and Margaret from HR entered carrying additional folders. As planned, she distributed them to Richard and the board members. These documents, I continued, detail a systematic effort to undermine my work after my promotion. They include evidence of unauthorized access to my files, altered documents and communications, revealing the true purpose of my so-called advancement. I played a recording of Walter's damning phone conversation. She'll be gone within a month and we can proceed as planned. Walter's face had turned ashen. This is taken completely out of context. Is it? I challenged, gaining confidence as I saw the shock on the executives' faces. Or is it consistent with a pattern you've established at multiple companies? I displayed testimonials from Walter's previous victims, women who had experienced the same tactical elimination. And perhaps most tellingly, I continued projecting James's contract on the screen. This document shows that James was hired specifically to replace me on the Liberty account with a start date 3 months ago, well before my promotion was even discussed. James looked down, unable to meet anyone's eyes. Walter, Richard said, his voice heavy with disappointment. Is this true? Walter's professional demeanor cracked. She was getting too close to the clients, building relationships that should have been at the executive level. Liberty was responding more to her than to company leadership. She needed to be removed from the equation. The admission hung in the air, damning in its honesty. Carol stood, addressing Richard directly. If this is how Skyline operates, we need to reconsider our partnership. We value relationships built on trust and competence, not corporate politics. Richard raised his hand. Carol, I understand your concern, but please know that this behavior does not represent Skyline's values or how we conduct business. This situation will be addressed immediately. He turned to Walter. I think we need to continue this discussion in my office. Now. As Walter was escorted out, his carefully constructed facade had completely crumbled. James slipped out quietly behind him, avoiding eye contact with everyone. After they left, I completed my presentation showing the full rebranding strategy I had developed. The Liberty team responded enthusiastically, asking informed questions and offering constructive feedback. By the end, Carol confirmed that they would be continuing their relationship with Skyline under my leadership. As the room cleared, Richard approached me. Donna, I owe you an apology. I brought Walter in without seeing his true character, and you paid the price for that mistake. We all want to believe the best in people, I replied. Walter is just exceptionally good at exploiting that. The aftermath unfolded quickly. Walter was removed from his position that same day with an investigation launched into his conduct. James resigned before he could be terminated. Richard announced a restructuring that promoted me to Vice President of Client Services, with direct oversight of all major accounts. In the weeks that followed, I worked with Margaret to implement new policies that would prevent similar situations in the future: transparent promotion processes, clear performance metrics, and protection for employees who reported misconduct. My team, no longer hindered by Walter's interference, flourished under the new structure. Kenneth received a well-deserved promotion to head of IT security, and Judy became Director of Account Management. Liberty Financial's rebranding launched to industry acclaim, strengthening our partnership and leading to expanded services. Carol and I developed a friendship beyond our professional relationship, often meeting for coffee to discuss industry trends and personal goals. The emotional toll of the experience took longer to heal. For months, I found myself double-checking my work, questioning my instincts, and battling the lingering effects of the gaslighting I had endured. But with time and support from colleagues who had become true friends, I regained my confidence and sense of security. Looking back now, I realize that Walter's attempt to destroy my career actually made me stronger. I learned to trust my instincts to document everything and to stand firm when faced with injustice. Most importantly, I learned that even in the cutthroat world of corporate politics, integrity and truth ultimately prevail. If you've ever faced workplace sabotage or felt isolated in your professional struggles, know that you're not alone. Document everything, build alliances with trusted colleagues, and never be afraid to stand up for yourself. Your career is too valuable to let someone else destroy it for their own gain. Have you ever experienced workplace sabotage or been set up to fail? Share your stories in the comments below. And if this story helped you recognize toxic workplace dynamics, please like and subscribe for more real-life experiences that might help you navigate your own career challenges. Remember, sometimes the promotion isn't a reward, it's the first move in someone else's game. But with awareness and courage, you can turn the tables and write your own success story.